everybody, CJ here, your local friendly technology addict, and this is the Tech Addict's Attic. In this video, I've got it zoomed in a little bit. Hopefully you'll be able to see the screen a little bit better, and I'm going to go through what I don't like about the two-way radio app on this phone. The hardware is just fine. On low power, which is half a watt, I can key up a repeater about 2.5 miles away, sitting on top of a building rooftop. So I know that the hardware works, and I know that even on only half a watt, I've got enough range that I can go definitely line of sight easily enough to key up repeaters if I need to, or even talk direct to other ham radio operators. So I know the hardware itself is good. The software is what stinks. So when I open the software, you look up here in the corner while it's initializing the channel, and you'll see this little icon pop up. When you see that icon pop up, you know it's going to work. The problem that I have is I'll be sitting here and I'll try to change a channel, and every time you change channels, it says switching channels. And when you switch channel, at some point it will fail to switch channel. It will simply tell you I can't do this and try later. Not in those words, other words, but it basically says fail. Excuse me. So when that happens, in troubleshooting, you can't get it to do anything else, so you go to close the app and restart the app. Just, basically turn it off and back on again. You might even try turning off the phone and back on again. That's not going to work. Once you see that happen, go into your device area, and pick whichever of these you created for yourself. Obviously, I'm not going to create China, Taiwan, EU, AUS, RUS, Norway, or South Africa FRSs. I might have created the USA, but since they're already there, I don't have to. And in fact, before I found the device areas, when I first got the device, when I first got the phone, all I was able to do was change the default channels. And I deleted all of those and added my own FRS channels. I went and looked up all the frequencies, not knowing that there was a channel area that I could change, like a channel grouping. Not knowing that that was there, I didn't know that I already had all of the FRS channels available. It was annoying because I spent a good amount of time doing that, manually putting in all 22 of the frequencies available to me. But I digress. So you want to come in here to your device area, go to each area, use it. Go back to your channel list and write down all of the information of each of your channels that you have created. Here's a better idea. As you add channels to this, go ahead and store that in a spreadsheet somewhere, because you will need it in the future. Trust me on this, you will. At some point, it stops initializing the channel. When you try to launch the app or change channels, it'll stop. I have not figured out why it does that. But every time it's done that for me, it's been right after I added a channel to it. Now, first off, let's look at the default channel list. There are 16 channels there, okay? Let's look at the FRS GMRS channel list. There are 22 channels there. I should be able to put 22 channels into a channel area just fine. Maybe that 23rd channel is what does it. We'll make it analog. And we don't want it to be making my speaker audible. Now we have channel 23. Okay. All right, let me go back to my, we're using that one, so I should be able to go to channel and tell it simply to use channel 23. Okay, well, we can have 23 channels in a frequency list. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. So I'm going to go and start deleting these, because I don't need any of them. Maybe deleting the default causes a problem. I know in some software you don't want to delete the default, because if you do that you won't be able to create a new one. Or some software, like one we're using at work, if you delete the default rule of something, then something else will not function properly, even if you've got a copy of the default somewhere, because the way the rules in general operate is they go back to that default. So some software you cannot delete the default, but I've been doing that and it hasn't been causing the problem, unless it's a delayed reaction, and I can't imagine that happening in software. It generally doesn't. So now we have one area. Actually, I'm going to create another area. We'll call it local repeaters. Okay, so the biggest issue I have with this, I'm already done talking about, because there's really nothing more I can say on the subject. It simply is not something that I can troubleshoot and fix. I'm going to try to decrease if it'll let me. Yeah, there we are. Okay, so local repeater, local repeat, that's all we get. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 characters I can put in a device area. I just want to put the words local repeater in here, but it limits me to 12 characters. I don't know what kind of file system they're using that limits me to 12 characters, but they are. So, okay, fine, local repeat. I know what local repeat is. I go in here and I'm going to use local repeat. I said I'm going to use oh, wait, that's right. I don't have any channels in there. Okay, so we'll just edit local repeat and we'll add a channel. Come on, add a channel. And let's say that we've got a fictional repeater, W1FIC. I like all of my repeater names, all of my call signs to be capital letters. This will be a DMR repeater, which I've never used, by the way. Because there's no squelch, so I don't know if I'm... With an analog repeater, you can turn your squelch off, and you can tell if you've got if you simply have a weak signal from too far away. You're able to key it up, but just barely. Although honestly, with a repeater, you should have plenty more strength than your repeater hears from you, because the repeater transmits with so much more power, so that shouldn't be a problem. But I haven't keyed up any of the DMR repeaters in the area, so I don't know if I even can on this. I know that this does digital. I assume that it's nothing special about digital in the DMR, but I haven't, like I said, I just haven't done it yet. Now I like analog because I've got a squelch, and I can force it open so that I can hear if there is a weak signal. You can't do that with digital. It's either there or it's not. So, send frequency 430. No, let's do a real 440 for 500. Here's the other thing I don't like about it. When I am entering a frequency, usually in the 70 centimeter band, you enter a frequency as a number of megahertz and a decimal portion. So I want it to be 449 point. I sat here on the first video in the unboxing trying to use the period. I couldn't figure it out. Point, point, point. It doesn't do. Oh, well, what it is, you need to enter it in cycles per second, hertz. I mean, really, in 2018, we're entering 9 digits of a frequency when 4 will do. But I digress. So that's another issue that I have with the software. It's just stupid. Send frequency, receive frequency. It looks like even they, let me count. Our ECV is 4, the space is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, they got 14 characters there. Anyway, that E should, of course, be a Y in both cases. English is not their primary language. Low power, color code 0, contact type all. And we'll save it. All right, so now we have a repeater in here. Let's say that I make another one. Repeater 2. And let's say that it's 449, 800. And this one will be 444, 800. I also don't like that you set your send frequency first. I mean, if you're just going right down the list. I much prefer to have the receive frequency first, just because. It is what it is. Squelch level 1 because we're doing analog. Okay, so we've got this one in here. Wait, I've got a new repeater, and it's between 444.5 and 449. Wait, what? See, look at that. Like I said, I like to do my receive frequency first. This one should be 9, this one should be 5. So editing is easy enough, or 4. Editing them is easy enough. All right, great. Now, I've got a list of 18 repeaters in here, and these are number 16, or excuse me, number 5 and 6. They've put a new repeater up in town, and it's between 444.500 and 444.800. It's at 444.650. Well, I want to put it right here in between the two because I want to keep them in order of their frequency. Well, I can't do that. So if I had a new one, I'd have to, there's no option simply to say like right here, maybe I can't because I'm in, okay, so device area, we'll go to local repeat, we'll use that, then we'll come to the channel list. And the channel list is the same editing options, okay, adding channels, but there's no copy, paste, insert above, delete below. You don't have those options. You can create a new one. I'm using channel 1, but it's still going to put it in channel 3. And even if I go ahead and put all of the necessary information in here, I'm going to put the send frequency, and that's the other thing. If I want just to listen, I don't want to transmit, I don't want to even risk interfering by accidentally pushing that button. I cannot disable that button in this software. I cannot make the software not be a transmittable app. I want to be able to say, you know what, on this frequency, don't transmit. On this frequency, this is a police, fire, rescue, dispatch frequency. We don't want to transmit on that frequency. Turn off the transmit button. I wish I had a checkbox for that. I don't. So what I have to do is put a send frequency that is on something completely different and hopefully unused by anyone, so that hopefully if I do accidentally key this up, I'm not going to interfere with anybody. But that's still illegal. If I key up the transmitter without a license to use that frequency, it is still illegal. So I need to put this in a band that I've got the ability to use either without a license or with my ham license. Well, of course, if I use my ham license and I make a transmission, I have to key up my, or I have to give my call sign as well. So obviously, I'm not going to do that with an accidental key. So probably that limits me to using FRS. So I guess I need to memorize one of the FRS frequencies in the area. You saw what they look like, 467, some oddball, 6725 or whatever. I don't know what the frequencies are. I'm guessing here, but give me a sec. I have to wet my throat. So I'm not going to sit there and remember the FRS frequency to put into the transmit. And even if I did, what if somebody's having a QSO on that frequency? It would be so much better just to be able to turn off the transmit button on this thing. But again, I digress. Receive frequency, whatever. Squelch 1. There's no way for me to, even if I long press it, it's not like I can just long press and drag or, you know, reorder, copy, paste, whatever. Make sure that you've got your order figured out before you start putting them in here, because you can't change it. There's no interface to like take, say with the Baofeng radios, they at least have a little adapter that you can plug into the side of the radio and take a USB cable to your computer and reprogram the radio from the computer using a spreadsheet. That would be the bomb diggity on this thing if I could do that, but I can't. So there's no way to just simply take off your data, order it around on a computer, and put it back. There's also no way to back up your data, because the data for this is stored on the portion of the storage for the phone to which you have no access because you don't have root. That's another reason to root your device, is to be able to back up your data and even restore it with an app like Titanium Backup, for instance. It is what it is. I mean, what are you going to do? So we've gone over a few things here. You can't order, reorder, organize anything with your channel list. So make sure you've got your channel list written down in either a spreadsheet or on a piece of paper or something. Lay it out how you want it to be before you go through the trouble of putting this in, because if you do get one out of order, just forget it. It's going to be out of order. And if you're anal retentive like me, if you've got that little touch of OCD that would bother you, then yeah, you really want to do your planning ahead of time. Come on. There is no way to do scanning. A lot of two-way radios, if you press and hold the channel button, it'll scan up. Not this one. There's just no option for it. So if you want to scan, you're going to be sitting here. Oh, well, I've already hit the top of it. Now I get to go back down the other way. So if you want to scan, you got to sit here and each channel, wait for it to initialize, switch channel. Because what's happening is, I suspect that this is just a standard USB DMR, not DMR, SDR, software-defined radio chip in the phone. And I think that it's probably the same one that they use in those little $20 things you see on Amazon, the Newelec, where it can receive anywhere from 1 point some odd kilohertz all the way up to 2 gigahertz. I think that it's running one of those type of chips, one of the same chips. And I think that what it is they've simply limited what frequency range you can get on it, because they want to make sure that they're not going to fry the transmitter by transmitting in a frequency that antenna is so completely wrong for it. Now, it's one thing to transmit on a 450 megahertz antenna at 400 megahertz. That's one thing. But it's another thing altogether to have a 450 megahertz antenna and be transmitting in the 100 megahertz range. There's also legal liabilities as to being able to limit your users from transmitting on public service frequencies such as police, fire, dispatch, and so forth and so on. So I get that. I understand you don't want to have a transmitter wide open like that. However, I suspect that that's what we've got in here, and I suspect that if we can find somebody who's good in code, who can write an app that will interface with the driver on this phone, I think that we could get a full-on SDR with transmit and receive and be able to set up something like a scanning feature, right? But I digress again. So each channel you have to switch, you have to initialize, because I think it's an SDR, and within SDR you have to send a code to the hardware that says, stop what you're doing, change channel, go to this frequency now. I think that's why you get that. Contacts. I don't use these, but if you had a contact contact number. We'll say 3. Let's make a channel. We'll go to 3. We'll edit 3. No, 3's analog. The contacts apparently are only for digital contacts, digital frequencies. So let's say that we're doing a contact name. We want it to contact R. What that will do is it will put into the transmission kind of like a encryption code that should only activate R's radio. I think. I honestly don't know. Like I said, I don't use those contacts. So, and the documentation for this thing is incredibly lax. I think they might have mentioned it, but it was a brief mention if it was. So I don't really use the contacts. I don't know how to use the contacts. It's a feature I wouldn't even have in the radio app. The app itself is simply cumbersome. Very, very cumbersome. Come on, take a photo. There's that autofocus issue again. There we go. See if I can get closer if I do. Oh, it already is in macro mode. Fantastic. And then when it does finally take the photo, it refocuses it. Excuse you. Do you mind? I'm trying to do a video here. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you. Listen, you need to get down. I will take care of you in a minute. Come on. Get down there. Put the tree on. There, tree's on. Cat actually likes our Christmas tree. So let's try this again. We'll take a picture again. See if it'll actually work this time. There we go. I can live with that. It's like, So that's going to be my contact photo, right? All right, but so anyway, little bit of fun you can have with it. I don't know how, does that get sent with your device information when you contact somebody digitally? I don't know. Local repeater. So the things that I hate about the app, I think I've pretty much touched on everything. Oh, except this. So I bring down the drop down, right? I've mentioned this a few times in several takes for this video, but I don't know if it got into this video because I've done it so many times. You drop down the shade, the notification shade, and you're going to see what channel you're on. The channel name, as you entered it, will show up. It's also supposed to say what channel group you're in and what frequency you're using. Now, in this case, it's AUSFRS. I'm clearly not using that group. I deleted it, remember? But here it is, showing up in AUSFRS. So I wonder, why is that there? What database does it have that it's got that stored in it, that it did not delete it when I deleted that channel group? And I'm wondering, maybe that's got something to do with the whole locking up of the radio in it. You know, maybe it's looking at some database that's expecting something to be there that no longer is. Possibly, but I don't think so, because the first time that happened, I had not deleted any of those areas because I wasn't sure if I was going to make any use out of them. I wanted to look through them and see what channels were in them first. So I created my own channel area and my own channels separate from the ones that were in the stock app. And it still wound up locking it up on me. So I don't know if it's got anything to do with it at all, to be perfectly honest. I can't figure it out because I don't have the source code. I can't debug it. Oh, and that's the other thing. When you're running this app, and this is one of the reasons I think it's an SDR that they've got in there. When you're running the app, your USB is no longer good for anything other than charging. ADB will stop. Any kind of file transfer you got going will stop. If you're doing, well, you're not going to be doing fast boot because you already booted up into it. But the point is, you lose the access of your USB. That makes me think that there is a relay in there, an electronic relay, electronic switch that says, okay, your USB connection is going to the external plug because we're not using it and you may need to interface with the phone through ADB or whatever. And then you've got the SDR. And it says, okay, well, if you want to use the SDR, we need to power the SDR. Well, that means data-wise, we also need to send data to the SDR, and because it's an add-on to the phone, it's not wired internally to the phone's motherboard. So it's acting like it's a USB on-the-go device. That's what I think has happened. The radio is a USB on-the-go device that's built in to the body of the phone, but not the electronics of the phone. So when you are telling the app that you need to send a different frequency to the radio to have it transmit on that frequency to, like switch a channel, you've got to have that communication line open. And for whatever reason, instead of putting a hub in, and I think I know why they did that too, instead of putting a hub in as a USB on-the-go hub kind of thing, they just simply disconnected and reconnected. Here's what I think. I think if they were to do a USB hub built into the phone, right? If they were to do a USB hub, it would be a USB on-the-go hub. It would have to be on the go. And that would mean that it would be constantly powered, which would mean that it would constantly be draining the battery, even if you're not using the radio, because your hub would always be there. And so you would have to have that as a hub in order to be able to get data back and forth between your PC and your phone while your phone is using the radio. But the direction of communication would be wrong, because in order for you to be able to talk to the phone, you'd have to have that USB on the go turned off. You can't talk to the phone if you got USB on the go active. So they can't simply do it as a hub. Well, they could also do it as a hub going the other way for the port here, but then that would mean that your computer would be able to use the device as a radio, but not the phone. Your phone wouldn't be able to interface with the radio. Unless they did it through some other channel like Bluetooth or whatever, or if they just manufactured a separate management channel into the radio, which could be done. That's how they do network switches. You have a separate channel for management. But there are hints that say, you know what, the radio, the two-way on this is a device that's been added on after the fact. I think it's possibly a. I'd have to go back and look at the photos that they sent me of the innards of the phone. That surprised me. When I contacted the company before buying the phone, I wanted to make sure that it was FCC type certified, and they sent me their FCC documentation, including all of the photos that they had to submit for testing, all of the photos of their test setup, all of the photos of the internals of the phone, including all of the daughter cards and the motherboard. They sent me all of that. All I did was ask, and I got so much information out of them. I don't remember seeing the radio as a separate card, so I don't know if it is. But it's almost like that's what they've done. Maybe the BV9500 doesn't have that card, and the 9500Pro does. And maybe that's all you got to do is take that card and put it on the 9500 and you've got a Pro. I don't know. I do not know. But I have seen evidence that suggests the two-way radio is simply an SDR that is probably capable of so much more if we can just access the hardware. So hey, if any of you guys are developers, how about you get on that? Because I know I'm not. I would almost donate money to it, but I don't. I'm not rich. I don't have the money to donate. You know, maybe I'll buy you a beer or something if you could help me out with that. But for the two-way radio, those are my main complaints. I like the fact that I can use it with my Bluetooth headset. So I can be sitting here listening with Bluetooth, and with my Bluetooth, it goes in my ears and blocks out a good deal of exterior noise. So I can pick up those weak signals if I wanted to, like if I'm listening to a satellite fly overhead. It receives well enough, it transmits well enough, and that's really all we're after, but it would be nice if the interface were a little bit more human, a little bit more organic, easier to use. I'm trying to think of anything else that I really don't like about it, but like I said, it's a short list. But that one thing, that radio, especially the fact that it locks up the way it does and you got to go and reset it, I really hate that. So about the only thing you can do is write down all of the channels that you want to have. Write down all of the repeaters in your area, write down all of the frequencies that you find interesting, police dispatch, fire dispatch, whatever, and put them in all at once and make sure the thing is working. And if it's working, don't freaking touch it. You know, if it's working, don't add anything, don't edit anything, don't remove anything, don't just leave it alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And that's not the way it should be. You should be able to do what you need with your own hardware, with your own channel list or whatever. You shouldn't have to be worried about it freezing up just because you've made a change. But I don't want to go on any longer than I have to. You get an idea of what's good and bad about the radio. So be aware of that. It's not the easiest application to use if you have a ham radio mindset or a scanner listener mindset. But hopefully we'll be able to get in touch with Blackview. I've already got a couple of emails in with them. I've got a couple of contacts on their support center page, and hopefully they'll respond pretty soon. I'm still waiting on that, but I don't expect it to go anywhere because one of the things that I asked them about, I've already gotten a pretty generic, oh, well, we can't support that kind of answer. And it's almost like I'm talking to somebody who's on the help desk who doesn't know anything about the hardware itself, and they're just there to, placate customers, and I hate that. That's what it feels like. That's how it feels, and I'm afraid I'm not going to get any further with them, and they're already starting to irritate me in that regard. So anything like that we get, anything as far as custom software, that's going to have to come from the user community. Maybe we can get a forum up on XDA forums and get some developers who know what they're doing. Maybe I am not a fan of reverse engineering. I'm not a fan of decompiling somebody else's app, but if that's what it comes to so that we can learn about it, it's one thing. And then right from scratch, a new app. I've heard of people doing that legally, so maybe that's an option. Maybe we can exploit that. And besides, this is China. They're not exactly known for their intellectual property rights honoring. So I think that's enough for this video. It's already long enough, certainly, and it's going to take it forever to upload. But hopefully I've helped you guys out. If there's anything specific that you want to know, anything at all, ask, and I will try to answer. I can't promise anything for right now, but we'll see what we get. In the meantime, this is CJ, your local friendly technology addict, and this has been the Tech Addict's Attic. Take care.